All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I'll try not to take too much of your time. I just want to kind of go over some of the logistics and what we'll be doing with tryouts for this weekend and the following weekend in Elizabethtown. So welcome to our meeting. Here we go. All right. So just to kind of let you guys know the ODP structure and how things work for those who aren't familiar, we're starting down with our Kentucky Olympic Development Program. For players who have been, either you get into the program through tryouts, some kids have been scouted, although not as many this year as in previous years. Those kids who make our tryouts after this next couple weekends will be into our Kentucky State pool. And from there, we'll have several pool training sessions, typically about 6. I know for our 2012s, we're looking to add at least one more, if not 2 more sessions. Right now, just trying to figure out some logistics on facilities right now. Eventually, towards the end of the year, for our 2010s and up, our 2010s will have 2 state teams. They'll represent our Kentucky in the sub-regionals, and our 2009s, 2008s will have 1 state team apiece. From there, players could be selected to go to the regional ID camp. Usually, it kind of averages out to about 4 to 5 for each age group. That will be for the 2010s and older, with the possibility of a 2011 being selected as a young player coming into the camp. From there, regional team events happen, and once you see this kind of red document in here, once it goes to red, that's kind of outside of our Kentucky's control. We have several kids that'll be going down to represent our Midwest region in Florida here in the next couple weeks. I believe we have, I think, 9 girls and about 7 boys that'll be down there doing that. And from then on, it goes to National ODP Camp, which may or may not be happening this year with COVID. It didn't happen last year. It did the year before, where we had, I think, 6 kids out of our kids that attended the regional team event and made it to the national camp, with a couple getting actual U.S. national team invites with our 06 girls. So that's kind of our structure and how we go about it. Right now the process is we are right at the tryout and scouting pool and moving forward. So just to discuss logistics for this weekend and for tomorrow as well. I sent out an email earlier. Clearly, if you got on this link, that you have this email. But just to kind of go over it again, is players will need to be bringing their own ball, water, and shin guards, along with any kind of goalkeeper equipment they have. When they check in, we'll be giving each player 2 shirts. They'll get an orange shirt and a gray shirt that will have the same number. Parents, if you do check your player in, just double check and make sure we have the same number, because that's really important for us. What we do is we use that we put that number in the tryouts app that we use, so that way all the coaches have all the lists on their phones. Along with, we will be taking pictures of the players as well to add that to the app, so we have a face and a number along with their name, so that way there's no mistaken identity issues. Before we had this, we had issues where we had a penny system where we gave a player a vest, they returned the vest or didn't return the vest, somebody got the wrong vest, and then we had the wrong player number, and players got missed because of that. So that we've moved to this system as well. What we're going to be doing at the Versailles site is, as you enter the complex and you head to the right, the main office is the building there. It'll be on your left. We'll be checking all the players in on the deck up there. So we'll have different areas for different age groups. The player will check in, give them their name. They will in turn get their shirts with their numbers on it. And then we'll have those numbers written down, and they're going to hang out around that area until we're ready to begin the tryouts. Once we do that, make sure that they don't turn these shirts back in. They're theirs. If they're attending 2 weekends of tryouts, they need the shirt both times. So please make sure you keep them, wash them. They're yours forever. And make sure if they're going to Elizabethtown as well, bring the shirts. Okay. One thing that we ask for all parents is that you may not enter the field space. You can be around the outside of the facility and in the parking lot area and into the behind where the fences are. We ask that because with our coaches, we want to have confidential conversations about players. We want to make sure that parents don't mishear something and they think they're talking about their kid and they get angry or whatever, or they get the false impersonation or impression that the kid might be at top of the group or whatever. So we try to keep our coaches separated from our parents at all times. So please make sure you remain outside that area. When you park at WISA, there's these little posts that are right next to the fields. If you want to sit up a chair and be on the outside, because it's going to be cold in the morning, but in the afternoon it's going to be in the 50s. You're more than welcome to do so. If you have a pickup truck, you can sit in the bed. If you want to sit in your car, whatever. Or if you want to go away for a while, that's also fine too. Just do not enter the field for whatever reason, unless we have an issue with an injury or you're picking your kid up a little bit earlier. Okay. So for our tryouts, our coaches will be engaged, but not necessarily as engaged as they would be if they're coaching the group. Right now their focus is evaluating talent versus coaching talent. For the first 30 to 45 minutes, our coaches will be pretty heavily engaged with the players because they're going to be getting set up. We're going to be getting them the numbers to all the players, all the info to the coaches. So that'll be the time they'll really work with the players at that point. As they go throughout the day, they're going to be doing some technique work. They'll be going to small-sided games, and then ultimately they're going to larger-sided games. And our coaches really be focused on that process of evaluating where they are for the age group. Okay. Questions we often get is how many do we keep in the pool? I don't have an answer for that. We don't have a set standard pool number. For those who've been around the program long enough and have had players in the pools, we try to keep the pools in terms of levels and correspond to that. So if we find that's a very good pool level, we'll have more players in that pool. If it's not as strong as a level, we'll have less. We just want to try to keep the quality in the sessions as much as possible. Now, for the younger age groups, we tend to keep more just because we feel like kids do develop at different rates, and we want to make sure that we don't alienate a player who has some potential but might not be in that top group yet, because we've seen as they go through their middle school years that they really change, their bodies change and they go through. So in the selection process, we do use an app called Team Genius. So if you're at the facility, you will see coaches on phones. Some will be using their pieces of paper and clipboards. However, we have a live update app on there that has all the players' numbers, names for each pool, and they have the rating system on there. So please, if you see them, I do not want to see an email come from anybody that said, hey, my kid's coach was on their phone the whole time. Yes, they were, because they were putting data into the system. So just be aware of that. Okay. I'm going to show you what the criteria is and how we rate. There's no real secrets about what we do. And we try to make sure that everyone is on the same page and the players know what we're looking for and things like that. So as you see, this is from our actual eval form for the players. These are the what they call the 6 key qualities of a player. And this is what we're looking at for each player. So we're looking for game understanding and decision making, which we'll see a lot in the small side of games and large side of games. Their responsibility initiative, which means how they are in the game, maybe how they're doing off the field as well. Are they players that are passive? Are they players that really step up and be leaders? Things like that. We also look for growth mindset and winning mentality. Players that are ready to learn and ready to receive information to get better. But also we want kids that we want to win. I mean, winning's important. It's not the end all be all, but we got to have that drive to go and win the game. We're looking for that. We're really looking at like how good they are technically. How good they are with skill wise. Are they clean on their passes? Are they clean on their dribbles? Are they clean with goalkeepers? Are they clean on catching, diving, things like that? As well as physical execution. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily are they super physical, but like how do they use their tools? So if they're a smaller player, how do they use that versus big players? And if they're a bigger player, how do they use that as well? Not necessarily just their physical size and abilities, and also learning abilities. Kind of go hand in hand with the growth mindset piece, but also just like how quickly can your players learn new concepts? Because there will be some, I'm sure, that they haven't come across before. So that is the scoring criteria. That's what we look. Our scale that we'll have is pretty simple as well. It's we'll click one and there'll be a not ready for pool. There will be possible pool player, pool ready, then basically state squad, state team level, and on the scale. So what happens in the system is multiple coaches grade the players. We get an average score of all those. and we also get a report from the head coach and the notes from the head coach as well on each team. So what happens next? So what we do is we have 2 tryout weekends. We have one this Saturday, and we have the one following Saturday on the 13th in Elizabethtown. Our goal is to have notifications to the pool by November 16th, because we'll have pool training session November 20th and 21st. So it will come very quick. You know, if players are unable to make it to the tryout sessions that we've already discussed, they'll use the pool date as the first tryout for them. The nice thing about us is, since we are not bound by having like only 18 on a roster or 15 on a roster, that if we have players that couldn't make tryouts and are good enough to make the pool, you know, they still have the opportunity. We're not locked into anything, so it is nice. Players that do not make our training pools for this year, they're allowed to ask for an evaluation from their tryout. So what we always ask our players to do is they need to email me. Do not email their coach. Even if you know their coach, we have a very strict policy in the ODP program, is that everything has to flow through me. We don't have parents contacting coaches, coaches contacting parents. Coaches don't have any contact info for any of the players within our pool. They're not allowed to see that. They don't have numbers. They don't have emails. They have nothing. We like to keep it isolated that way, because we want to make sure we protect not only our children and our families, but also our coaches and our clubs. So it's very important to me. Everything comes through me. If everything goes well, it's in the system. I basically send you a PDF of their evaluation right back to them. I do prefer that the players themselves email me. Now, usually I do get emails saying, well, my child doesn't have an email. That's okay if they don't have an email address, but they should actually type it out and email it from your email address. Now, you know, I have children of my own. I have 2008 kids. So I know a lot of our kids do have email addresses, and they can send emails. It's important to me that the players are responsible for their development. So they need to be responsible for emailing me. If I get an email like at 11 p.m. at night from a 2012 kid, I'm not sending a response back. I need to make sure that it's coming from the kid and not from the parent. All right. So with that being said, hopefully I've kind of hit that. If you have questions, you should be able to hit the little hand raise button, and then I'm going to try and set it to where people can unmute themselves and talk as soon as I can figure that out real quick. But you can feel free to hit that in the chat if you like, or raise your hand and you'll be able to unmute yourself now. Jacob Puckett, you have a question?
Yeah, so you said if they don't make the pool that they get, you can request an evaluation. If they do make it, are the evaluations public? Is that something that we can see, or is that stuff that you guys hold close?
So we hold that because, you know, we're going to see those players for the next few weeks. So then we basically just you know, you can ask, and that'll be into a pool meeting. So I don't want to get too much into that, but yeah, we do discuss that. What the next steps are there as well. So that's a good question, Jacob. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm out of question. If my child can only make one of the training sessions they evaluate longer during the one evaluation they do make, they're going to be evaluated like everybody else. So you'll get more info if you're at 2 sessions. Our coach, we don't have any way of really telling our coaches that they're only there at 1, and we have several players that end up showing up to 2, even though they're just registered for 1, which is more than welcome. If you've registered for 1, you're more than welcome to come to both. So no, they don't spend any extra time with those players, but that's a good question. Any other questions? I will post this to YouTube as well, so if anybody needs to go back and look at it, they are more than welcome. Lindsay Greenwell, you have a question?
I do, Derek. There's also a question in the chat, just FYI. I'm a Microsoft Teams nerd. I'm sorry. Can you go over again the beginning part that you said about the age groups? I just want to make sure that I understood. Like, if there's not a spot for my age group, he can still try out?
No, I mean, I'm not following you, Lindsay, on that one.
You said something about
Oh, no,
certain
if they
age
can't make
groups
the
that were
tryout.
taking kids.
If they don't make the tryout, so we got a couple of kids who've got tournaments both weekends now because of reschedules. So some of them can come to the first pool session to make up the tryout. That is their tryout, if that makes sense. Because we don't have to I don't have to have 36 kids in the pool. I could go to 40 if I have to. If the
Okay.
player is a good enough level. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so the age group is kind of good. It doesn't matter what age group, they can still come. Because really,
we'll have enough for each age group out there. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that brings something up as well. Before I go through these questions in the chat, our players who made the sub-regional teams last year do not have to attend tryouts. So there's a good chance that our top 18 kids from last year, none of them will be at tryouts. So please keep that in mind as you watch the tryouts as well. So, I got a question from Mike. If a child, I'm sorry, we got that one. If they make the pool, what if they can't make all the pool sessions? Casey, that's a good question. It just kind of depends on how many we're talking they're missing. Clearly, the more they're at the sessions, the more chances they are to be evaluated fairly and be selected to more things. So that's kind of a difficult question, and we'll probably talk about that in the pool meeting. Yes, Saturday sessions at Woodford County, Woodford Youth Soccer Fields. That's correct. Danny, it could on how many we keep. But again, we look at the level first. If we have to take more kids because the level's high, we keep that kids. Does that affect our ability to increase talents? Not really, because we're not bound by numbers. So if we feel like we've got a lot more players out there that are better than what we have, we're gonna take them. So good questions though. All right. Todd, you got a question?
Yeah, I apologize. I missed the very beginning of the meeting. If they can only come to one of the evaluation sessions, the tryouts, that's all right. I'm assuming. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. Honestly, Todd, I think the majority of players will only be able to make one anyway.
Okay.
Especially this year, because it seems like we're playing a little bit longer. So if that makes sense. Sorry about that.
Yep.
Yep. All right. Any other questions? Or with that nervous stage, you're hoping someone else asks a question. Yes. So Sarah, typically we've done indoor stuff for our pools. However, since COVID hit, that's kind of been a no-go for us. So it does get a little bit chilly, and there are times that we've had to reschedule sessions because we've been snowed out or frozen out with the weather. However, in Kentucky, generally we get pretty lucky and we don't miss too many because of the cold. Good questions. Julie, the process for the 2012s, it's a little bit more wide open for the 2012s because that's our entry point. And we like to include as many kids as we can, but we don't keep kids who are not really going to belong in there. Jay, you have a question. They probably, they'll have goalkeeper training for about first half, at least the first hour to hour and a half. They'll rejoin the field players and hopefully be playing in goal at that point. So probably just need to bring everything in just in case. Robert, good question. All returning players need to pick up a new shirt because that way we don't have any mix up on numbers. Probably. I mean, Tim, it never hurts for someone to have a little Nutri-Grain bar or something there just in case. Now, the one thing we could do, depending on numbers, because I don't expect a large turnout in Versailles this weekend, because a lot of tournaments going on. We may end the session a little bit early, so make sure you're around the fields about half an hour, just in case. Leslie, yes, the 2011s might be involved in several things this year. They will definitely be involved in our Murfreesboro event. They'll definitely be involved in our St. Louis event, and possibly they'll be going to Indy as well this year. So our 2012s right now, we're just scheduled to do Missouri at the end of the year, but that could change. Tryouts are typically about 3 hours because it does take a little while to get settled in, but a lot of times We'll end about half an hour early, depending on what the kids' fatigue level is and how many kids we have out there. All right, guys. It seems like everything's kind of calming down. I'm going to turn off the recording right now, but if you want to hang on, if you have any questions, I'll hang around for another 5 minutes or so. Otherwise, have a good afternoon. I will not be in attendance on Saturday. My right-hand man ODP, Jeremy Anderson, will be there. So if you have questions, ask Jeremy. He'll be at the check-in thing, or feel free to email me. I'll be in Hopkinsville delivering a coaching course. But I will be there in the Elizabethtown weekend, and I'm pretty easy to find.